Thank you very much, and thank you for coming to this presentation. Auxico Resources Canada Inc. has assets in the state of Sinaloa in Mexico, the Zamora property, which is 15 past-producing mines and prospects in that state. This property had generated gold and silver in the past. The main value driver is silver, but there's still a lot of gold. I'd like to talk to you a bit about the silver industry first, if I could. I like silver. It's a very interesting metal. It's a very interesting commodity. And if you look at silver, about 50% of the uses of silver are currency. The Roman emperors used silver as currency. We still use silver as currency today. The other metal that is used as a currency is gold. One of the distinguishing factors between silver and gold is that silver has a variety of industrial applications, unlike gold. Silver has a very promising future, and one of the reasons why I'm bullish on this is that all of these industrial applications, several of them have significant growth trajectories, which we'll talk about during this presentation. I'll quickly go over some of these. For example, in terms of photography, right here, about 38 million ounces of silver are used every year in X-ray photography in hospitals. That's a significant amount of silver. If you look at silver, it has a variety of properties. It's used, you probably have silver on your bodies right now. It's very antimicrobial. It kills bacteria. If you have deodorant on, which I'll presume and hope you do, then you probably have silver on your body at this point in time. The monks in the 14th century used silver in stained glass. So it has properties that reflect light. It's very conductive, it's very reflective, and these properties lend it to use in batteries and solar panels and so forth. The fact that it's non-toxic, you can actually eat silver. I'm not suggesting you go out and do that after this presentation, but it's very antibacterial, and it has a variety of medical and pharmaceutical properties. It's used also in engines. It has a very high melting point of about 961 degrees Celsius. So if you're traveling on airplanes and so forth, chances are you have silver on the airplanes. Water purification. NASA astronauts use water that's been purified by ionized silver. So it's something that they use in that application. In terms of medicine applications, as I said, it's non-toxic. It kills bacteria. This is a very significant property that silver has that not a lot of other metals do. I'd like to talk about three specific segments in the silver industry, and as Auxico, we feel there's a bit of a revolution going on in how silver is going to be used and how metals and how mining is going to be approached going forward. If you look at the automotive industry, today your cars are not just four wheels and a machine that moves forward. They're essentially computers. Everything is electronic. Anything electronic in your car, any electronic sensor, has silver associated with it. So you have power windows, you have automatic doors, you have electronic sensors, you have heated windows. All of that is powered by silver because of its thermal and conductivity traits. So essentially what we're seeing in the industry also is there's a move towards using silver powder. So if you take the Financial Times and you look at the price of silver, it'll quote you $16 or $17 an ounce, which is the price of silver. However, in many applications, including in automotive, in aerospace, in 3D printing, and also in solar panels, which we'll talk about momentarily, a lot of these rely on fine silver powders. And an interesting thing for us as a company that will eventually produce silver is that those silver powders sell for between 5 to 7 times the current price of silver. So if the price is $17 an ounce, US dollars an ounce, those powders can sell for between $100 to $120 an ounce. So that's something as part of our business plan going forward we want to get into. We've had chats with a company in Toronto that has a patented technology to enable us to produce silver powders. So one of the things we're looking at is the developments in the industry, and that's a very significant development if you can produce those powders. So let's look at two of the other segments that have showed significant growth. What I find interesting is marrying the mining, the metal industry to green tech, to clean tech. If you look at the use of solar panels around the world, that is increasing, and a lot of those solar panels require silver. Silver has very high thermal and electrical conductivity, and because of that trait, it's used in solar panels. You have coatings of silver on these panels. It's estimated that about several tens of millions of ounces will be used in that industry alone. And again, I think that's important for us moving forward, that we're helping the environment with a metal that we take out of the ground. Also, in terms of 3D printing, this is an industry that did not exist even a few years ago, a decade ago. A lot of the inks that are used to create 3D objects with these 3D printers rely on silver powder, silver nanoparticles, and again, that's the end of that's the part of the industry that produces the 5 to 7 times the current price of silver metals. And that's estimated to go up to about 20 million ounces of silver a year from nothing about a decade ago. So if you look at a lot of the parts, specialty parts that are used in aerospace, that are used in automotive industries, like the very small bits, you need very high precision, and a lot of that is being used with 3D printing. And that's a significant area that shows promising growth going forward. So let's talk a bit about Auxico. We've talked about the silver industry, which I think I'm very bullish on in terms of the applications of silver. There's no one segment that silver is reliant upon, even as a currency. Some of these areas are growing significantly, the automotive, the 3D printing, and the solar panel industries. So in 2014, our company purchased 100% interest in the Zamora property, which is in the state of Sinaloa to the northwest in Mexico. And what's interesting about this, the best place to find silver or gold is to go to a mine or a location where it had produced in the past. So these had been past-producing mines. We have 15 past-producing mines and prospects on this property that were abandoned in the early 80s. At that time, the price of silver and gold and a number of other metals and commodities decreased, and this property was mined artisanally by the local population. So it changed hands, and we eventually picked it up in 2014, and we began to do a sampling program on the property. So there's one area right here called Los Elotes. A gentleman who worked for the Mexican government, Antonio Flores, had done a resource calculation on that area. A small resource, 35,000 tons, which is not very huge in the mining business, but the average grade was quite spectacular. He came up with about 1.5 kilos of silver and about 12 grams of gold per ton. So if you had 1.5 kilos in silver, you'd be very happy. If you had 12 grams of gold per ton, you'd be very happy. If you have both, well, you're Auxico. So this is something we're going to hope to put into production very soon. We're a private company today. We deposited our prospectus with the exchange in Canada this past Wednesday. And so part of our business plan is to take those resources and to produce, to go into early stage production. We intend to purchase a mobile concentration plant for about $350,000 to $400,000, and that we will hope will generate at least $1 million US in terms of gross profit per month. I had the opportunity to meet with Hecla Mining. They're the largest silver producer in the United States, and I know some people on the board and the key management there. And they have a property in Durango, neighboring state to the east. They purchased a plant for $2 million, put it on their property. I think it was a 500 ton per day plant. And last year they produced $97 million in free cash flow from that one plant. So they have high-grade silver, and we hope to replicate that. And if we have a fraction of what Hecla have, I think we'll be very happy. At the same time, our geologist has been on the property in 2014 and January and February of this year. And one of the things we've identified is there's a very significant trend here, a large amount of brecciated material that contains a stockwork of fine veins of what we suspect is mineralized silver. There's been no historic exploration on this property. This is blue sky, but it's an educated guess. And what we intend to do is do geophysics on this and eventually drill it. If we have a 12-kilometer long anomaly on our property, we have a very sizable opportunity on our hands. So the idea is to change sort of the business model of junior mining. We want to get into cash flow as quickly as possible. That helps our shareholders in terms of creating value for our company. And with the cash that we generate, we can use that to continue exploring on the property. And again, if we can identify a sizable anomaly, then that puts Auxico Resources in a very different position. Today, we have about 30 million shares outstanding. The last private placement we've completed was at 25 cents a share. So our pre-IPO market capitalization is only about 7.5 million Canadian, which I think is about 4.5 million pounds. It's very low, with tremendous upside and hopefully near-term cash generation in this year. And again, what we want to do is our geologist has identified some new mines on the property, and what we want to do is, again, test his hypothesis that this area is mineralized. They all line up on a 45-degree angle going northeast. And this Los Elotes area is an area that has a historic resource that we hope to monetize and put into production. Longer term, thinking in the future what we want to do, again, back to our conversation about silver powders, that seems to be a very interesting segment. And again, just looking at the prices of silver powders versus pure silver, it's 5 to 7 times. Now, it's probably a smaller market in terms of size, but it's something that we want to explore and go after. So, looking forward into the future, assuming we've identified an interesting resource and we go into production, what we hope to do is produce pure silver, but also look at producing silver powders. That's the way of the future in this industry. That's going into solar panels, it's going into 3D printing, it's going into your cars, it's going to jet engines. These are the high-end applications that require high purity silver, and that's where we want to be. We've done some initial testing with a company called CVMR in Toronto, in Canada, and we've gotten very high pure silver powder as a result of that. And I think pursuing both of those ends will create value for our shareholders. We managed to raise money privately through my connections, through connections of our shareholders. We have some people here in the UK who've put money into the company. We intend to list, and by having a listing, that enables us to do other things, to maybe do acquisitions, to have a value for our company, to raise capital more easily, be it here in London, be it in Canada. So our business plan is quite simple. We want to move forward with generating cash on the area in which we've identified a small resource, even at 100 tons a day. If we do the math, with the average grades of 1.5 kilos of silver and 12 grams of gold per ton, that's about $1,000 metal value per ton of resources. And the cost to produce that should be $150 to $200 a ton. So there's significant margins given the grade is so high. So that's why it's intriguing to us and important for us to move forward with that path. And that enables us to explore, enables us to move forward to getting a larger resource and moving into production of silver and silver powders. So that's where we are today. And this is kind of, we're here in London today at the Master Investor. And I thank the conference for having us here. It's kind of our coming out party, our beginning of marketing. And we should be listed in Canada within the next couple of months. And we look forward to coming back here, spreading the good news about our company and the silver industry in which we think it's very bullish. So I thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, we're at stand 63. And of course, you can email or call us anytime. Thank you for your time.